Hello everyone and welcome to the FIA Certified Gran Turismo Championships. Our top 16 superstars from the North America region about to go racing in the Manufacturer Series. The 2019-20 Exhibition Series Season 1, round number 10. And to call you through the action is myself, Chris McCarthy, and Jimmy Broadbent.
Hey Chris, good to be here. Good to have you back in the hot seat, although you have to get it cleaned afterwards. But.
Good to be here. Good to get a different seat. Well, we got some fantastic racing ahead, but before we go anywhere into round number 10, we should take a look at the points coming into this one after 9 rounds. Def's Son out clear in the Jaguar at the moment, and we've got TRC Stagger fairly close with Carl Lamb. But fairly big gaps, mostly between the drivers. Outlaw Quadrant in a fairly close fight behind for 7th place, but fairly spread apart in the North America region. Yeah,
Def's On though in the position we're used to seeing him in now, commanding lead over 1,000 points at the head of the field there. Safe to say, if you're a Jaguar driver right now and you aren't Def's Son, you're probably having quite a bad time.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a point. Well, let's have a look at how Jaguar are getting on in the manufacturer standings. This is the global manufacturer rankings, and definitely Def's Son playing a part in putting Jaguar where they are. They are at the 2nd in the standings at the moment behind Mercedes-Benz, and you can see in the North America region, that's where they've scored most of their points. Honda 3rd, Toyota 4th, Aston Martin 5th, then Porsche, Ford, Dodge, Citroen, Volkswagen rounding out your top 10.
Yeah, but I mean, again, very strong showing for Jaguar in the North American region. But you see, it's a mix of every region here. So if one region isn't pulling their weight, that can really drag your score down. For example, look at McLaren there, North America, only 48 points there. So puts them down at 12th overall.
Yeah, it is a team effort, even if you aren't racing against each other in the same region. Well, let's have a look at where we're going to be going racing then for round number 10 and see the track the drivers are going to have to take on. We're going to be heading to Italy and we're going to be racing at the Monza circuit, a favourite for a lot of drivers to go racing on particularly. It's, of course, very quick track, lots of straights, lots of overtaking, always provides fantastic drama.
Yeah, if you've not heard of Monza, then, well, frankly, what are you doing? Go look it up. One of the best circuits in the world, one of the most fun circuits in the world, most importantly for us, one of the fastest. Slipstream around here. It's going to play a big factor in overtaking as well as fuel saving, so definitely some strategic elements here, even if you think maybe it's just a straight line fest.
Yeah, one thing you don't want to do around Monza is pick up a penalty, because it can really damage your race more than in other places, and the penalty line is out of turn number 7 out of the 2nd Lesmo, so definitely that's somewhere you don't want to be having to serve a penalty, particularly in the early stages of the race. So they're going to have to be keeping out of trouble on that opening lap. Let's see what they're going to be racing in and have a look at the details for this one. We're going to be in our Group 3 cars for this around Monza, medium and hard tyres, 17 laps, 11 times tyre wear.
Yeah, the fuel consumption is probably going to be more important than the tyre wear around here, because that dictates, of course, how long your stop is. If you're leading the pack you're in, you're going to have to stop for more fuel than the guys behind, because they're going to be saving fuel using the slipstream. So, yeah, positioning yourself and making sure you've got the right amount of fuel in the car at the right time is just as important as tyre wear around this circuit. Yeah,
just under 100 kilometres of driving for us to do. Strategy, we've been talking about fuel saving. As for tyres, 6 laps is what we think we can go on the mediums for, 10 laps for the hard tyre, and around 6/10 time difference between the two. So we'll see how it plays out, who decides to use the tyres when and how long they use them for. So let's get straight down to the grid then and have a look who's going to be starting on pole position. And no surprise, it is going to be Def's Son in the Jaguar at the head of the field. Outlaw Quadrant in 2nd in that Nissan. And the top 3 rounded out by an Aston Martin there with Turismo Leicester.
Unsurprisingly, to see a Nissan at the top of the field. Those cars being quick all week here. Great to see, of course, another one representative. Big Nissan presence in the Manufacturers Series. At the moment, of course, it'll be Def's Son leading us off in the Jaguar. All 3 of the top cars at the moment are incredibly fast in a straight line. It's anyone's guess down towards T1. It's going to be Def's Son leading, of course, off the field. It's been in that position as many times before, so we'll know exactly what to do here. Cover the inside, hope that Nissan can't go around the outside, and then try and go from there. But coming across the line, the Jets go overhead, as we go green here for the Manufacturer Series, round 10 of Season 1 at Monza, chasing the Jets down towards the first chicane. You see not a great start there from the Nissan, the Aston Martin on the inside there, Turismo Leicester piloting that as we come down to the first chicane for the first time. As a Mustang in the mix as well. Defson still has the inside, but it's got been overlapped there by the Nissan. He's trying to go a long way around. Contact between the Nissan and the Aston Martin there, and that means Turismo Leicester's lost out big time, and Defson just about for all that maintains the lead.
Yeah, I think Outlaw Quadrant, with what happened there, actually good driving allowed Defson to retake the lead. So good driving there from Outlaw Quadrant. Got punted into, which caused Defson to run wide, but race back on. Turismo Leicester in third place. Then it's Windfire in fourth place. Zenit in fifth place. Totally Lit is in sixth at the moment. Bill Bader, who we're looking at now, in seventh. Where they at is in eighth place. Then it's Calm and Turismo Groove. A mixture of tyre strategies at the start of this race. Zenit and Lit have gone for the hard tyre. Oh, but someone off.
Binary Theory.
Yes, good spot. Binary Theory in the Alfa Romeo off, and looks like, well, Descom must have been involved somehow, because DNA Descom 5 seconds back, or 4 seconds back, sorry, from the rest of the field. So either a penalty or was somehow involved in that.
You know what you want in your first lap, of course, brake to toe to everyone in front, which means you're pretty much on your own. But meanwhile, at the front of the field, looks like Defson has pulled away a little bit coming out of Ascari. 8 tenths now is a gap between himself and Outlaw Quadrant behind in the Nissan GTR. Behind him is Turismo Leicester in the Aston Martin, and then of course we have the Ford in fourth place right now. We still have the top 8 or so together on track, quite close, and there's a bit of a gap down to 9th, and then that's somewhere our second train is. Here is the gap from the front, from the perspective of Outlaw Quadrant, rocking that GT Academy livery. Good to see that being used again. And coming down the straight, and even from this far back, you can see the speed of a GTR just pulling in that Jaguar coming down towards T1.
Yeah, the gap just coming down at the top left of your screen there. You can see it's now below 6 tenths of a second, and Leicester unable to get through. We were side by side. Zenit and Windfire going toe to toe through the first corner there. Windfire comes out in fourth. Zenit in fifth place. It was Zenit, I think, who tried for the outside going into the chicane, but unable to make that move work. So Windfire, it is in fourth. Zenit in fifth place. Totally Lit in sixth. Dibbler at the back of the field in the Porsches had a penalty, so he'll drop away from the pack coming out of the second Lesmo. Not too sure what that is for, but it's only half a second, so not the end of the world. But nevertheless, round Monza, that is really going to hurt. As, oh no, well, that's big news. A penalty for the leader, Defson. Well, that must have been for track limits through the chicane perhaps, but Defson, a 1 second penalty, and where's he going to come back into? Second. So his gap, his hard work at the start has saved him there.
Yeah, that gifted the lead there to Outlaw Quadrant. What we didn't see at the same time on your screen is that Turismo Leicester, who's now in fifth, also had a 0.5 second penalty. He was in third, so he would have inherited the gap of the place of Defson. But fortunately for Defson, he had another penalty as well. So only one place lost there for the Canadian driver, and we know that he's quick, so I think with a little bit of careful driving, he'll probably get onto the back of that GTR once again. But just goes to show how important it is to be nice and clean and tidy around here at Monza. Very easy to make that mistake and pick up a penalty. You do that, you lose a ton of time. On board now with Totally Lit. God, this name, man. Yeah. Every time I read it.
Yeah, don't know what he was thinking. But Totally Lit in sixth place there, coming down towards the first chicane on the hard tyre at the moment. The Aston Martin over Turismo Leicester ahead of us, and must be under pressure here. There comes Bill Bader to the outside. Bill Bader might have the inside for the second part of the chicane, but the door is slammed in his face, and off the road there goes Totally Lit. Bill Bader had to go all over the curb on the inside. Bill Bader comes through to take sixth. Totally Lit seventh. Well, how did you see that one, Jimmy? Looked like a racing incident to me, but
I think so too. I think it got a bit tight through the chicane. We'll have another look at it anyway. So here we are. So we have Lit there on the inside. Bill Bader on the now on the inside of his corner. Looks like he gets forced over the chicane. The thing is, there, I think he was fine. I think he drove himself off a circuit trying to give room. I think he didn't. He thought he had more room than he did, and he went onto the gravel and of course slowed himself down. But the result is, of course, that Bill Bader is now up into sixth. And in the background, that was where they at. I think just having a spin coming out of the second chicane. There he is. No, sorry, he's even further back. There he is now. So he's lost a couple of places there. Just about caught that right at the end of the picture, but as we always say, a lot of these guys don't run the traction control. They like to use the slide to rotate the car. A bit too much slide there for where they are. Maybe that's where you see he's asking about the apexes. Where they at? I can't find them.
And I'm definitely not saying that name in full. Definite. Where they at, Doe? Wow. Defsun in second place now. Of course, getting closer to Outlaw Quadrant here, having had to serve that penalty. It's closed the gap back down to Outlaw Quadrant. Turismo Windfire in third place. This is getting close between the top three and Zenit as well. So Outlaw Quadrant struggling to keep the gap out front despite being in that quicker Nissan car down in a straight line. Let's see the difference as we go on board with the Jaguar of Defsun. You can see just struggling to really get close in the tow. Now finally starts to bring that gap down, but not enough to, well, I think we saw that lifting going before the braking zones. That's fuel saving going on. You can see getting out of the throttle just to save fuel and use the tow of Outlaw Quadrant to his advantage.
Yeah, clever boy there, Defsun. Exactly what we want to be doing around here. So easy to kind of get lost in the fight, so to speak, and not remember you've got to be doing things like saving fuel. And just lifting off at the end of the straight there, using the tow from the Nissan, still gaining on the Nissan while doing that, of course. It's just a complete, that is a tutorial of how to save fuel and still be quick. Just a little bit of a lift at the end of the straight, braking at the normal point, maybe a tiny bit later to compensate for being a little bit slower into the corner with a lift, and stay there. And of course what that means when we come to the pit stop, he has to put less fuel in, so it'll be a quicker stop and he can maybe get out ahead of Outlaw Quadrant.
Oh, Defsun using a disadvantage to his advantage there, and that's what the best in the world can do. So Defsun will stay behind in second place for now. Has to be conscious of Turismo, Rimfire, Zenit and Leicester, because there is a queue forming now for the lead. Stretches back to the Aston Martin of Turismo Leicester in fifth place as we now head down to the Parabolica on lap number 4. 1.2 second gap back to Bill Bader, so we'll have to keep an eye on that, because this lead train could extend further. Totally Lit in sixth place, Turismo Groove in eighth. Where they at is ninth. We've got Tim Law in 10th place, Calm is 11th, Valens 12th, Descom 13th, and it's Dibbler and Binary Theory.
Windfire there, looking pretty quick in the Mustang actually. We've not seen much of the Mustangs in these races so far, so good to see one being represented and doing fairly well. Not only that, really quite close to the top two now. Zenit there quite late on the brakes in the Supra behind and getting a little bit closer himself. See this train starting to get a bit bigger, and Quadrant there is getting a bit too happy on the loud pedal coming out of the first chicane and into the car sideways, still using the grunt of a Nissan to stay ahead for now. But I think if you're in Defsun's shoes, just go, yeah, okay, fair enough, I'll just lift a bit more, save a bit more fuel.
Yes, it's good driving, patient driving, I think, from Defsun here. It's hard to do, believe it or not. Just to commit to being patient throughout a race is not easy, particularly when you've got a good queue of drivers behind you. Through Lesmo 1 they go, now into Lesmo 2. Totally Lit is going to have to slow down out of the second Lesmo. Track limit penalty for him. So that's going to lose the tow now to the queue ahead, and it's now going to be 6 for the lead rather than 7.
Again, just another example of just being a little bit too aggressive with the curbs around here. The track limits are quite strict in DT Sport. Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of having human stewards in every race, and I think this, having a strict track cut system, is better than having a lax one, because people will try and abuse that. But yeah, another victim of that, of course, and as you say, 6 now, down to 6 for the lead, and Bill Bader starting to fall off the back there. But still looking pretty fast up front. Of course, bear in mind that TDG Zenit, that's really hard for me to say, is on the higher compounder tyre. So he's in a great position right now, running on the slower compounder tyre and still being up. And there you go, oh, Defsun and Zenit there. I think, okay, here's what I think happened there, is that, okay, Defsun's going for the medium compounder tyre, so there should be a 2-stop, and Zenit also going on the medium. Zenit, wanting to be with someone when he pitted, saw Defsun pitting in and thought, you know what, he's the fast guy, I'll follow him around, take his tow.
I nearly jumped out my seat there because I saw a wall coming straight at me very quickly, but Zenit there just about got across in time. But I think you got it exactly right there. Wants to be behind Defsun now. They've found a gap on circuit, and Zenit just has to stay within reach, 9/10 back, so within the slipstream range, and that is a sensible move, definitely. An early stop from Def Sun. We're only on lap number 6 now, so that stop made on lap 5. So back to our leaders. Bill Badder's got a penalty, unfortunately. Half a second it is, but still that's it's going to be more extreme around Monza than it is in other places. So Bill Badder will drop into the clutches of Totally Lit. Oh, well, I say that. Totally Lit was off in the background there. Off into the gravel on the XL Lesmo 2.
He lit up those rear tyres.
Yeah. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Dropping into the clutches of Def Sun now. So through Ascari we go. And Totally Lit there, we can see the Toyota in 5th, but just look at how much he's lost. 2.8 seconds back now.
You see, he was right behind him there, Def Sun.
Yeah.
Going back through the hood after his pit stops, now he's got a bit of a toe. There it is. So Def Sun, after his stop, is right up behind. What will the Supra driver do? We have a lock-up there going in, so I thought we'd be using ABS. Apparently not. The cloud of smoke suggests otherwise. And Def Sun just going straight by. Yeah, and you're right. So Mr. Lit comes into the pit lane, gets off his fresh set of tyres. He'll go on to mediums there as well as fueling up. And let's see now what 4th and 5th can do. Of course, Def Sun was pretty much challenging for the lead of this race, 1st and 2nd in the first couple of laps. So he's gone for the undercut on the medium compounder tyre. Everyone in front of him have yet to stop. You can see in the P column there in the top left-hand corners who has stopped and who hasn't. Yeah. So yeah, looking good for these guys right now.
Windfire is into the lead of the race, so that's something I don't think we saw, but that might be my memory deceiving me. But Outlaw Quadrant, 2nd place, just seemingly starting to struggle on the tyres now.
And Leicester, you see him in the background there, all kinds of sideways coming out of the 2nd chicane. So I think these guys will do a pit stop soon.
Yeah, I think they do one right now. Really, Windfire maybe not so much, because the gap now 1.2 seconds back to Outlaw Quadrant, but Outlaw Quadrant has burnt those tyres now, needs to come in. Leicester likewise, they're both really starting to struggle here. On the last laps they were Turismo Leicester 7/10 slower than Windfire, but Zenit has done a 147.6, so a 147.9 for Def Sun, so they're about 1.5 seconds slower on the leaders than these two here, Def Sun and Zenit. So they're really making use of being earlier in the pit stops, and they are performing the undercut here very well.
But we'll see what happens here, because we have to wonder what the pace is going to be like at the end of a life of the tyre, and will they be doing a 2-stop? Because they might have to stop again here. The guys at the front may be trying a 1-stop. We'll see if they pit, as Lit and Timlo are now close together, coming through the parabolic. It's going to be a drag race down to the first corner, which I suspect the Toyota will win. The intersection isn't the fastest car in a straight line. Yeah, nice easy move there, I think. Just getting up onto the quarter panel of the Honda, and through it goes up into 7th place. So we have had Descom come in. He's gone from medium to medium tyre, so another 2-stopper there, we think. Again, the reminder, you've got to use both compounds of tyres here in this race. But otherwise, it seems to be calm at the front. I say calm at the front. These guys are rapidly closing. We have Turismo Leicester, who is currently in 3rd place. He's being, closed in now by Def Sun and Zenit, who have both made a stop. So these guys on a charge at the moment. Yeah,
it was a new fastest lap last time from Zenit as well, 147.5, so 7/10 quicker than the race leader. So Zenit absolutely flying, but likewise it's Def Sun who goes purple through the first sector, so purple meaning quickest of the race, and Def Sun now right on the tail of Turismo Leicester. And it's when you're in this position, it's not even worth fighting Def Sun, surely. It's just worth letting them go by and losing as much time as possible. There you can see Sensible, I think, getting out of the throttle. Well, I think that was very close behind, wasn't it? Zenit tried to move, but it was very, very late.
Far too late.
And got away with it in the end, but there was definitely some form of contact there. But I think Zenit must have just got it all wrong under braking and had to go for a move to avoid going straight into the back of Leicester. Now gets through cleanly, albeit a corner too early perhaps, because now we come onto the start-finish straight where Leicester's going to have the tow.
a bit overly aggressive there. I don't think there was any need for that. I think, yeah, I can understand what he was thinking. It's like, oh, if I get stuck behind Leicester here, I'm going to lose the draft. But he wouldn't have done, to be honest. And the move was very late. Leicester saw it, I think, and just about get a bit of room to both get through there in one piece. But yeah, a bit overly aggressive there, could have cost him. But luckily for him, back up to racing speed, past Leicester, as is Defsun. The gap now between Defsun and the lead is just under 4 seconds. That's with a stop. So yeah, really looking very quick now.
Yeah, Zenit's doing well to just keep Defsun at reach after that little bit of a scary moment, almost going straight into the side of Leicester, but keeping Defsun about a second up the road. But Windfire Quadrant doing very well to go as quickly as they are on the tyres that they now have, because the state of those tyres aren't going to be very good at the moment. But Windfire Quadrant, of course, are going for a one-stopper here. Zenit and Defsun, we expect, will probably be in to do another one, having stopped a little bit earlier. Into Ascari now. This is Zenit up ahead though. Defsun, it's only a matter of time before he goes into second place. Outlaw Quadrant is starting to hold him up now, as we can see, coming out of the chicane and down to the last corner. Defsun about to go into second place.
There is an up the inside there of Outlaw Quadrant. Not much the Nissan driver can do, even with that grunt of a twin-turbo V6 engine. Going to have to be a pit stop for them very soon, I think. And now it's just 3.3 seconds separates Defsun and Turismo Windfire, who is yet to pit, of course. But we do suspect we will see a second stop from the Jaguar driver as well. In comes Turismo Windfire, which, of course, there you go. Defsun then goes back into the lead. 1.6 seconds now over Zenit. What a great middle stint that was there from both Defsun and from Zenit, to be fair, actually, in the Toyota, although a bit further back. And now we'll see if these guys are going to try and go to the end of this medium tyre. I don't think they're going to manage it. I think there's going to have to be one more stop, but when that will come, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, well, Windfire has come out in 5th, Outlaw Quadrant 6th place, Turismo Leicester in 7th place. So not too bad for them. Just shows that the first stint, how good the first stint that was that they have put in. Let's get a run through then of the order as we are now into the second half of the race. Defsun, Zenit, Bill Bader, Totally Lit, Windfire, Quadrant, Leicester, Calm, Where They At, Groove, Descom, Dibbler, Timlaw, and we've got Valens and Binary Theory, who went off right at the start of the race. So Defsun, our leader then, with half the race remaining. Gap to Zenit, 1.6 seconds. So a race between these two at this stage of the race now, of course, but there is definitely still some more pit stops to go, I'm sure.
Yeah, surely at this point. I don't see how these medium tyres can get to the end, not in any sort of usable condition anyway. So here's Windfire. He was our leader a lap ago before his pit stop. He's now right up behind the Toyota of Mr. Lit as we come through the Ascari. Really fun set of corners in the Group 3 car. Got a lot of grip. See the throttle application there on the right hand side of your screen. You can get on the throttle quite early through there, kind of straight line the exit, let the downforce take over. If you're a bit too quick through there, you can quite easily scrub the front tyres though, especially in these front engine cars. Coming onto the back of the Toyota now, using that toe all the way down to the Parabolica, but not quite close enough to make a move. And again, another, I think, a bit of smoke there from Totally Lit on the way through.
Yeah.
He is totally lit, it seems, but I think that maybe just he's not using any ABS. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, he's done that. Even on the very first lap, it seemed he did that as well. But here comes Windfire then. Comes charging down the inside. Totally Lit's not going to give him a huge amount of space on the inside, but Windfire into 4th place, easy as you like. So that's the Ford up into 4th place. Totally Lit goes down to 5th. So the Ford moving up the order nicely, doing pretty well around here. It's holding stations, I think, so far. It's pretty much where Windfire started, and doing a good job to hold on.
Yeah, definitely in the Mustang. Again, the Mustang isn't really a car we see very much in these races, so good to see it doing well here, of course, in the hands of Turismo Windfire. Mr. Lit in the background, getting it sideways, coming out of the second chicane. Very easy to do that, because you carry a lot of speed through there, actually, more than you think you do. It's quite easy to carry a lot of speed over the curbs if you're feeling brave. And now I'm wondering, when are we going to see, or are we going to see, Defsun and Zenit pit again?
Well, it would be, you'd expect, next lap or one after.
Surely for fuel. And of course, Defsun at the front, he's carving his own path, so to speak. So he's going to be burning fuel dramatically at the front at the moment.
Yeah.
So it might be a long stop for the Canadian driver. We might see him pulling back into the clutches of Zenit. Although saying that, Zenit isn't really in the tow. He's just outside it right now. So he won't be getting much benefit himself.
Yeah, Def Sun is lapping around 4 to 5 tenths quicker at the moment. So Def Sun doing a good job in the Jaguar out front. And as we said, that Jaguar has been gaining up. Well, there we go. Our question's already answered. A little bit shorter on the fuel, 17 litres compared to the 20, and that should be Windfire back into the lead. Let's have a look then and see where the other guys come out. Def Sun and Zenit. Lots of pit stops going on there.
Well, this is the gap to the end now. This is it.
Yeah.
Unless Windfire has one more stop, he may do. Def Sun's come up about 4 seconds behind. So there's Def Sun, there's Outlaw Quadrant, of course, back into the fray again on the one stop. So he's now split Def Sun and Zenit. And this now again becomes a bit of a drive to the line. This is the thing about these races. It's great to have these longer races, but you tend to get lots of activity, calms down a bit in the middle, and then all the strategies come together at the end, and you get a bit of a race to the finish. It's kind of what I like about these multi-tyre races. Everyone seems to be opting to finish the race on the medium compound of tyre. I think some people still owe the hard tyre, so we'll see when they come in to do that. But meanwhile, we'll look at Outlaw Quadrant in that GTR. Now he's going to be the roadblock for Zenit behind. He's been quite quick this race, but I think a little bit ragged, it's fair to say.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Def Sun seems to just want to go to the more aggressive strategy, isn't it? There's different strategies. The two-stop, you're going to be aggressive when you do it. You've got to be quick every lap. Whereas the more relaxed strategy, if you like, in a one-stop, you just got to be able to preserve the tyres. So you've got to be better at driving slower, almost, isn't it?
Yeah, that, and of course, making the most of your straight line speed. And then Mr. Litt goes up the inside. Nice move there from the Supra driver. Past he goes on the AMD. Although I think the AMD may have gone a bit wide there because they've dropped 8 tenths of a second almost straight away. Yeah. Was that a penalty there?
I think it looks like he hit the gravel and that slows him down, and then so it's kind of a penalty in itself, isn't it? I guess. So
I'm very much for kind of self-policing in that idea. Oh, hello. I think there's no, sorry, our timing screen was having a bit of a barmy there. I thought we saw Def Sun drop a little bit. Calm comes into the pits on only 9 litres of fuel, so he really stretched that middle stint, mediums to medium. So again, another 2-stop. Lots of people just are opting to go medium to medium, it seems. But you're seeing now that Outlaw Quadrant on those slightly older medium tyres is really struggling against that fresh set on the Toyota of Zenit behind. And the thing is, with that Toyota, just doesn't quite have the grunt on the Nissan. So you see coming through Curva Grande now, although he's deep in the toe, it's got to be a lunge into the second chicane if he wants to move, if he wants to place, sorry.
Yeah, let's find out if he goes for the move. Not quite, so Zenit for now sits in behind in 4th place. We go on board with Zenit now in the Toyota, coming up to the first Lesmo. Def Sun just up the road there. Gap has come down from what was about 4.5 seconds when Windfire came out of the pits to 3.7 now, so it's coming down gradually. Is it coming down fast enough for Def Sun to mount a challenge? This could be a very close finish here, as we will have 4 laps to go when they cross the line next time. Into Ascari now. Zenit's in quite an interesting position here. Got Outlaw Quadrant ahead, who stopped once, so you think Zenit will be in a hurry to get by, you think here?
He's trying.
Yeah, but let's see, he's got the toe now of Def Sun up ahead, being on the outside of the track and goes through. Look, that looked like Quadrant was happy for him to just go past there.
Yeah, I think there was a mistake on the exit there, and he's no point really fighting it down the bottom. He knows he's on a bit of an older tyre as well. Now, here's interesting. Let's look at the last laps between our first and second place. 147.9 for Turismo Windfire, our leader. 147.1 for Def Sun. 8 tenths there he took out of the leader on the last lap. Only three laps to go though, so it's going to be very close at the end, but there needs to be a bit more, I think, from Def Sun.
Yeah, maybe just needs to definitely just needs to take that gap down slightly further. But as we get later into the race, of course, I think he's just going to be the gap between the two in terms of their tyre performance is only going to extend. So this is definitely on, I'd say, for Def Sun. But got to be careful of Zenit, of course.
So yeah, curiously, he set the fastest lap on the last lap.
Yeah.
Despite being behind the GTR, so maybe Zenit is one we need to watch.
Zenit absolutely flying, isn't he, in the Toyota, closing in on Def Sun here. Now the thing, they can both ruin each other's chances of going for the win here, and that's definitely something they've got to be careful of. That's something Windfire will be hoping that happens, but how do you go about this now if you're Zenit?
I think at this point it's just see what happens, really. See if you can get close. I mean, if you're Zenit, you want to be ahead already. You want to be chasing under your own terms, of course. Gap at the front still coming down. 2.8 seconds between Def Sun and Turismo Windfire. And of course, as that gap gets closer, the tow is going to come into play as well, which will just make the gap come down even quicker. But as you say, Chris, do you want to start having a fight between second and third? You do that, then first is going to think, yeah, great, fantastic, I'll take that. But also, you got to think of points. So what if you're in Def Sun's position? You know that Jaguar is already doing very well in the standings. Do you care? I mean, do you want to just do that, or go out there and have a bit of fun? I think if I was him, I'd be, obviously going for the win. But I don't think he needs to worry about points. Maybe Zenit does. Yeah. So it might mean more to him than it does to Andrew Brooks in second.
Yeah, it's either Zenit can decide to try and work with Def Sun, or can go past and hope that Def Sun is willing to do the same thing. So we'll find out. I don't think we're going to have to wait much longer to find out the answer to that question. The gap now 2.3. We've got just under 3 laps remaining here as we make our way towards the second chicane, and the gap is 2.3 seconds. It seems to be coming down at just over half a second a lap, if not 1 second here. 2.4 the gap. There is Outlaw Quadrant. No chance he's going to go any further forward unless there's an incident, I don't think.
Don't know if it's enough there for Def Sun. Again, another 9 tenths quicker on the last lap than the leader. But I don't think Def Sun just has enough in the tank to, well, figuratively, to catch Windfire in front. Look how close Zenit is now. He's almost pushing the Jaguar around as he come out of the second Lesmo. What do you do if you are Zenit? I think now he knows he can't catch the leader, so he wants to do as well as possible. So I reckon we'll be looking to try and maybe get a move done coming out of Ascari down to Parabolica instead of doing it into T1. Doing it into T1 is just a way to lose time. You want to try and get through under slipstream, under power, and not under braking, because that's when you start losing time when overtaking. It's a really difficult balance here. Do you want to lose time, or do you want position?
Yeah, the gap's really stabilised on this lap, hasn't it? Now it's, for the first time, it's going up as we went through Ascari there. So Def Sun is really struggling here. Zenit, I think, is going to go for a move now into turn number 1. Def Sun has had his chance at going for the lead, immediately getting over to the right-hand side of the circuit to try and break the tow here. But Zenit, I think this is his chance to get into second. I'm not sure he's going to be close enough to go for the win, but nevertheless, this could be a race for second now. Windfire, I think, has done enough in that Mustang to save the tyres and hold on behind. There was no change of position.
Backed out.
And Windfire doing a great job here just to keep the gap stabilised, but this is lap 16 of 17, so still has a little bit of work to do, but looks on track to hold on.
Yeah, the gap only came down by 6 tenths that lap. It's going to be something very special here for Def Sun, for Andrew Brooks, if he wants to try and get onto the back of that Ford for the last lap. And let's see what happens. He's got a car in front, you're chasing a car behind, big in the mirrors. What do you do if you're Def Sun right now? What are you looking at, Chris? You've been in this position before, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, it's a hard one to manage. I think on Def Sun, you know that Zenit wants to take the win as well, so you just got to focus on your own driving and hope that Zenit makes the right decision in your mind and sits behind. I guess that's the best thing you can do. The only way Zenit's going to be convinced enough to follow you is if you're doing well yourself. If you start defending, then you basically are telling him to go for the move. So I think Def Sun has done the right thing. No need to defend, just focus on your own race. And Zenit has been convinced enough here, or has been forced to sit behind, and well, all of a sudden this lap Def Sun has saved something in the tank, because the gap's come right down and it's now just 1 second.
Now we have the tow. This is going to be an exciting finish here at Monza for our North America region here, coming around the Parabolica for the second to last time. We have 3 cars in with a chance of winning this race. Turismo Windfire, Def Sun X and Zenit there in 3rd position, all within 8 tenths of each other, and most importantly Def Sun within 8 tenths of the leader and in the tow and closing, coming down to the first chicane now. Won't be close enough for a move down here, but all the way down he's getting a nice free tow, getting closer and closer. On the brakes then for the first chicane, all through there nice and tidy, and you're seeing seeing now the tyre advantage of Defsun really coming into play. Will spin out of the third chicane from the Ford, and that allows Defsun just a little bit closer. Zenit Low dropped off, half a second behind now 1 second behind Defsun. I think now this is going to be a two-horse race.
Yeah, Defsun has definitely saved something in the tank for this last lap here, and he's now starting to use that to his advantage. And Windfire, well, he looks a sitting duck at the moment as we go into the final half of the lap here in this race, this round number 10 in North America region. We've got the American of Windfire versus the Canadian of Defsun there. Ford versus Jaguar as they come up to Ascari. Defsun right in the toe now as we get up towards. It's going to come down to the last corner. This, what a close race this is going to be. Zenit sitting there in third place, Ascari and Parabolica to go, and any one of three drivers can take the win.
Here we are then, coming through Ascari for the last time. Needs to be a good run for Defsun if he wants to challenge Windfire into the Parabolica. Looks to be pretty decent through there. Good run through. Gap is coming down all the time. He held back a little bit there to try and get a good run out, I think, and now he's deep in the toe of the Mustang, coming down to the Parabolica. Then only a tenth and a half separate them. What will Defsun do? He goes to the outside. He's going to try the long way around of Turismo. Windfire here. Can he get it done? No, I don't think he can. He's going to try to cut back on the inside. Windfire sits on the apex. Very clever move there, but Defsun still has the run. No, he doesn't. I think this is going to be Windfire. They're well defended through the last corner, and Windfire will just take the win here at Monza. Defsun second. Zenit decides to celebrate by putting his car in the wall, and Outlaw Quadrant comes home in fourth. Great defending at the end there from Windfire.
Yeah, Windfire timed that one to perfection. Defsun nearly did the same thing. A great race, two different strategies coming into play there, and both of them matched up exactly the same at the end. It was Windfire though who got to the line first. Defsun second, Zenit third, Quadrant fourth. You can see the drivers now just outside of the top 10. There's Dibbler and Calm coming across the line now. They were fairly close together. The struggling Alfa Romeos will now round out the field. Valens there, Binary Theory had an off right at the start of the race, and that was kind of his race done really. And Binary Theory, there you can see, has the last corner still remaining, will come across the line to complete the field. So Windfire it is who takes the win then. It's just over a tenth of a second between the pair. There's Defsun in second. Zenit finishes third with the fastest lap. Just ran out of steam, I think, towards the end there. Outlaw Quadrant fourth. Then it's Leicester, Bill Badder, Totally Lit. And then we have Tim Lauer in eighth place. And outside of the top 10, as we go through to see 9th to 16th, you can see where they are at. Turismo Groove, Descom, Dibbler, Calm, Valens and Binary Theory. Fantastic race and two different strategies. With only a tenth between two strategies. Great to see.
That's what you like about these longer races, is we get a chance to see other strategies develop. I think Defsun maybe left it a bit too late in the end, but a very good effort. And of course, to have a 31-minute race end with a tenth between the first two guys, not bad, huh?
Yeah, and less than half a second back to third place as well. Fantastic stuff. Here's how the points sit in terms of your drivers. So Defsun, despite not taking the win, still comfortably at the top there. TRC Stagger in second, Carlam third. Windfire comes up to fifth with that result. Where they at though, and Bill Badder also climbing up right towards the top 10 a little bit further down. And as for the manufacturer rankings, we'll see how they have now moved. We can see Toyota coming up, Ford also on the up, and Nissan as well there, Jimmy.
Yeah, Nissan with a big, strong showing, of course, this week at Monza is what we expect, really. Very good circuit for them. But Mercedes-Benz just seem untouchable, still at the top.
Yeah, Mercedes-Benz right at the top there, 841 points for them. Well, which one of these manufacturers is going to be on the top step when we go to our World Finals? It's coming up very shortly. We're going to be heading to Monaco on November the 22nd to the 24th to crown our World Finals champions in our 2019 World Tour. Make sure you join us there. But for now, though, from myself, Chris McCarthy, and Jimmy Broadbent, it's goodbye.
So after an investigation into this week's races, it became apparent that some drivers were using a loophole with the tyres. So what was happening is drivers were starting with two compounds of tyres, hard on the front, for example, and medium on the rear, and that would then essentially fool the game into thinking that, both tyre compounds have been used. Because this is technically not against the rules, rather just a loophole in the regulations, the results will remain the same for this week, but will be changed so the loophole cannot be used in further events.